1, 2. Okay, let's get going, kids. Welcome to the stream. Whoa, there's a lady talking. Welcome to the stream. I thought I would do some podcast music production for a job I'm working on. Yay, I got a job. And I thought I'd share it with you because I'm sitting here anyway. So what we're doing is using Reaper as well as Native Instruments mainly to edit the music section of this podcast, which is 5 episodes. Each episode is one of these yellow regions, and it is kind of due at the end of this week, so I'm going to rush through it basically. I've done the composition. It sounds like this, and here we go. Very quiet. You have to listen. Shh. You have to listen. It's also going to be a little bit poppy. It's popping because I'm streaming and stuff. But anyway. So yeah, and I've got to beef that up basically. And when the client says we want oomph, I know what they mean. What they mean is I want the orchestral drums collection from Native Instruments. At least that's my most oomphy patch. So here we go. If you got any questions or whatever, reach out in the chat. I'm just sharing the process, man. That's what this is about. Cool. Let's make some music. Okay. Okie dokie. So here's our big boss, the contact instruments over here. And I am going to see firstly, can we move that over? No, we can't. Okay, never mind. And I'm going to take this and just kind of preview some of the sounds. Let's see if you can hear them. Let's get rid of that. Okay, nothing coming through. And got the wrong channel soloed. There we go. Cool. And we want to send this to music. Okay. Let's see. That is the contact channel there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Monitor import is off. Good. Is F10? Yeah, F10 works for that. Okay. Okay, I shouldn't be taking in audio here, so I'm going to just do some routing. And this is the most fascinating stream you've ever seen, right? There we go. Mic 1, turn it off. Input, none. We don't need input. What we need is MIDI input. Oh. There we go. Now that should suddenly make a big sound if we're doing this right. And the reason it's not is because sometimes it's got to do with MIDI channel and that. Alright, it's been a while since I've done this particular setup, should I say. I do other setups all the time. What are we missing? Let's see. Contact is receiving MIDI, but not receiving MIDI because of... There we go. Okay, cool. It's a MIDI channel thing. Alright, so now we've got a big percussion ensemble, this type of thing. Yeah, good. I'm glad you can hear that. And I'm going to be using that to underscore some of this, the current bed. So let's take a listen. Starts with a kind of gunshot, that's nice. But that's a bit of a listener problem. These are the taikos, which we kind of like, but they're very, very widely used. I'm just going by feel here. Okay, let's do that. Cool. So we're actually recording this. So this is quite a cool setup that I've got here. The selection on the left over here, I can actually play 2 or 3 different patches at the same time. So for example, bass drums, crashes, mids, highs, and minor hammers. And you get these big sounds like that. And it's not very well thought through or professional or anything, but it does the job. Okay, and at the same time, I'm just going to actually, yeah, let's just do this. This is all setup time. Setup time.
Martinez Zogo was 50 when his mutilated body was found on an empty plot of land in Ebog, Yaoundé, Cameroon on 22nd January 2023. Martinez Zogo was 50 when his mutilated body was found on an empty plot of land in Ebog.
I'm playing this on the keyboard in case you can't see.
January 2023.
Can't actually see it, yeah.
He was a popular radio host on Amplitude FM, using his show Embouteillage to rise to prominence as one of Cameroon's outspoken critics of corruption. Embouteillage means gridlock in French.
Okay, let's solo out the music again.
Most widely spoken since
Let's try it. I think maybe I might be let's play around with different approaches. So I'm now going to switch over to the impact, that's the impact patch that I previously loaded. I decided not to use. What I'm actually looking for is a synth patch now, just to beef up the sort of low end and see. Okay, we're still on MIDI 2. Okay, cool. That's what I'm after, but like lower. That's a bit too loud. So then let me just show you what this is. It's a cloud supply from the Native Instruments collection. It's got a handful of easy to use patches. So I've been playing with these a little bit. I've already got another one called Stray Light in this project, but I'm not actually going to reuse that. This might work actually, the initial patch. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that basically. Here we go. So let's do a little recording there. There's no counting, so just another layer basically. And I'll change it to an E flat from a C over here. Okay. Alright, cool. And I'm going to end it on F over here. Okay. Cool. Not bad, single take. Let's see how that sounds an octave low. So first I'm just going to group all that stuff and then there we go. So that does the job that I was looking for. Gives it a bit of a tack. I do want to just hear how it sounds with a little more, just a little bit bassier. So I'm going to shift everything down an octave. Here we go. There you go, yeah. Now it sounds like a death bell, which is a very common tactic in scoring to suggest that something bad is going to happen. There you go, that's fine. I'm going to have to change the buffer rate on this project because it's scraping by. So let's get the audio device, and this might actually cause issues because just change it to 512, see if that works. It might crash OBS. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to change it up to 1040, 1024. Okay, there we go, guys. Okay, I like that. The other advantage, the difference that I've made is I'm going to bounce this out as a stereo file. And I'll also just take the volume up like 1 dB, and that's going to certainly put a bit more oomph into it.
In Ebog, Yaoundé, Cameroon, on 22nd.
I don't want to mess too much with the mixing.
He was a popular radio host on Amplitude FM, using his show, Embouteillage, to rise to prominence as one of Cameroon's outspoken critics of corruption. Embouteillage means grid.
This could come up in volume.
To rise to prominence as one of Cameroon's outspoken critics of corruption.
Just also want to push it a little bit later, so I'm going to take that
the
up.
The language most widely spoken since the country's independence in 1960. Cameroon.
Let's take that over there.
To rise to prominence as one of Cameroon's outspoken critics of corruption. Embouteillage means gridlock in French. The language most widely spoken since the country's independence in.
Let's go back to bass, to big percussion. I actually just want this one, please. So there are crashes up here somewhere. Maybe we could use some more crashes. There we go. Let's take it up 2 octaves. There you go. Okay, cool. So we'll use that crash a couple of times. We'll just synchronize it to the other one. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Martinez Zogo was 50 when his mutilated body was
cool.
found.
So we added a crash and a new piece. Okay, cool. Now all we do is we take that crash, the crash symbol which I've put in there, and we just synchronize it to all of these other starting points. So I'm going to just make sure it's really close to the end there, and then I can, I'll just duplicate that. And then whenever I see, there we go, this should work.
One of Cameroon's outspoken critics of corruption. Embouteillage.
I think I might actually skip the middle one because it's maybe a bit too much.
His death has become a complex political drama.
It sounds like there was a re-trigger there, which I don't want. There we go, found it. Okay, and get rid of it.
My name is Angela Quintal. I'm the Africa Director of an international NGO.
Okay, and that's basically going to be it for the whole series. I'm going to make my way through the series and add the crashes and that new synth channel wherever relevant. So let's give it a save, and let's find the next music bed. That will be here. So to make things easy, let's do this. I'm going to consolidate all of those. Control-Shift-G, groups it, and then I'll just take the whole thing over there. Now I'm assuming that this is the same piece of music, but it's just differently arranged. So you can see it's actually slower. I've changed the tempo sometimes, so I have to
Zogo had been threatened.
I have to just basically listen through the whole thing again. Let's do it like this.
Zogo had been threatened.
Okay, this crash is too loud. Let's take it on.
Zogo.
So you notice that it doesn't actually make a difference to the crash if you edit it on the left here, and that's because we're viewing the MIDI data over here, whereas in the control panel at the bottom here, this is the actual audio. So I need to turn it down here. No, I got that wrong. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to do it all the time. So now I need to get the track control panel up here and change the visibility of. Oh damn! No, I don't have it. Okay, let's go straight into the device itself, which is this contact instrument here, and I'm just going to find that. You know what? Actually, I'm only using this for one thing, so I might as well just turn down the master. Yeah, there you go.
Zogo.
Okay, that's cool. I'm also just hearing a lot of. It's very on the left, which I don't really want. hard left, yeah. That's better. Jeez, the stereo image of this recording is incredible.
Zogo had been threatened and knew that someone was about to make a move on him. What Haman mentions next may be the biggest clue to unlocking the whole case.
During that period, programs were During that period, he was doing some program. Most of his programs were about this money, important amount of money of public office programs were about this money, this important amount of money of public contract programs were about this money, this important amount of money.
I think what we need to do is get a few in there, like wood blocks or something a little bit like suspensey. Okay, cool. Take that volume down. Now we're going to add another one of those. Okay, so I need to just free up some RAM, of course. So let's see what we're not going to use. We're not using rototoms. I don't know what an octoban is. Djembe, maybe. I don't know. It's the story set in Cameroon, so it might be a little bit appropriate. But then anyway, let's take all of that stuff. Monster swooshes, that might come in handy. And now we're going to add, I think let's add a specific element from Cineperk. Where is it? There we go. And I want to add, some woods actually. Wood blocks. Log drum. Okay, don't complicate it. When you're in a rush, you just have to make spot decisions all the time like this. Okay, this is now going to be, so that's MIDI 1, MIDI 2, MIDI 3. Has this auto mapped to 3? Yes, it has. Okay, so then we got to take okay, interesting. Let's take it over here now, and we'll just switch to MIDI 3 on the keyboard. And we should also switch here to wood blocks, which it hasn't included, so I've got to just add where did it put it? Here you are. Stuck in there. Great. Wood blocks, channel 3. Yes, it hasn't been set up. It's gonna be this one over here. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. This one, huh? There you go. So I've changed it. I've taken out Marla hammers and I've changed it to wood blocks. Okay, cool. Just a little bit of librarianship there. Now we actually need. That's what we need. Yeah. So I'm looking for a very specific sound, which is a you know that like suspense sound when you have like this type of thing in the background.
Doing some program, most of his programs.
Cool, that's fine. No, it's just way too present. I need it to be very much more in the background. So I head over to woodblocks and change the reverb settings over here. It's got full mix, which I don't want. All I want is literally just the room sounds. Let's hear that. Turn off the full mix. So now it updates the sample pool. There you go, a little bit more in the background. And I do believe they've got a reverb setting over there. There it is. Oops, 3. Okay, and let's get all these bullshit settings. Well, at least I can't hear them. This has to be very subtle. High pass must be on. Sorry, low pass must be on. Just a little bit of touch, a little touch of that there. Okay, cool.
I knew that someone was about to make a move on him. What Haman mentions next.
This money, this important amount of money of public contracts, about...
I think we need to do even more for the reverb. Okay, let's take it to the next level. We're going to find a way to boost this reverb because I can't actually hear any of it. Mixer, close overhead mid, solo the ambient. Dennis sounds interesting. I like this. Mapping. How about that? We do a double.
Most of his programs were about this money, this important amount of money of public contracts. This important amount of money.
I'm not really getting there with the vibe that I'm going for there. So what I'm going to do is
were about.
Actually, I've got to shorten that. So fix it.
Case.
During that period, he was doing some program. Most of his programs.
There it is. Okay, there's a key change over there, or note change, should I say?
Most of his programs were about this money, this important amount of money of public contracts.
Zogo had received a dossier of financial records of public contracts from an unknown source. It was a goldmine of information concerning a number of high-ranking and controversial public figures, including a businessman called Jean-Pierre Amagu Belinga.
Okay, let's try something else. Maybe the patch itself is not quite right. What I'm looking for is something that can convey that suspense woodblock hit or feel. And yeah, I'm not getting it from there. So let's try a different approach. I'm going to stick the Temple Blocks preset in there. Yes, replace that one. Cool. What I'm doing is, I'm editing a podcast in Reaper. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit more simpler. I'm editing the music for a podcast, and it's got to be true crime. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff before, and so what I'm using is native instruments over here to create a little bit of a suspense sound. So firstly, I'm looking for a woodblock sound hit that I can use to that type of thing. Yeah. So these are the sounds I'm digging, but I'm not feeling the reverb because the reverb's really dry. So let's switch over to the room mix and the overheads only. Turn off the full sound. There we go. Cool. And then make sure the reverb is there. And we don't actually have a lot of control over reverb. It just gives you it doesn't give you like a tail length or width or anything like that. It gives you width but not the length, and that's because they've recorded samples and they're not using like software to make the samples sound like they're artificially reverberating. What they're doing is switching between samples that have been recorded at different lengths with different microphones. So they're switching natural reverb recordings basically. So which is why you can't make it sound like an eternal reverb.
Most of his program.
So I'm going to do is I'm going to add a send from my big percussion patch all the way over to the reverb patch, and that should allow us to get a little bit more tail on the whole thing. There is a reverb sound. There it is. Okay, cool. There you go. Now you can hear a bit better what I'm after.
He was doing some program. Most of his programs were about this money, this important amount of money of public contracts.
Zogo had received a dossier of financial records of public.
Okay, that sounds good.
Money, this important amount of money of public contracts.
Zogo had received a dossier of financial records of public contracts from an unknown source. It was a goldmine of information concerning a number of high-ranking and controversial public figures, including...
Oh, now we need to switch over and get this one back. Okay, cool. So that's my C note, here's my E flat note, and then it switches back here.
Concerning a number of high-ranking...
And this is a crash, which needs to also synchronize with the C note. So let's get that over there. Doof. Here we go.
It was a goldmine of information concerning a number of high-ranking and controversial public figures, including a businessman called Jean-Pierre Amadou Belinga. Remember the name. Belinga is a rich media owner in Cameroon, newspapers and TV, but he didn't own all the media. Zogo's radio station Amplitude FM was out of his jurisdiction. And TV, but he didn't own all the media. Zogo's radio station Amplitude FM was out of his jurisdiction. Media. Zogo's radio station Amplitude FM didn't own all the media. Zogo's radio station Amplitude own all the media. Zogo's radio, including a businessman called Jean-Pierre Amadou Belinga. Remember the name. Belinga is a rich media owner in Cameroon, newspapers and TV, but he didn't own all the media. Zogo's radio station Amplitude FM was out of his jurisdiction. Amplitude FM was out of his jurisdiction.
That's good. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. Next up.
Was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a lot.
Okay, let's change the key on these.
Was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested.
Okay, we're going to get some of these crashes in here. Let's take the wood blocks over too. Let's take it all over. Take it all over. They're just like little building blocks that we've got to use to put together a, more scary picture. It's all about scaring people. People want to be scared. I don't know. I don't get it. I want to be scared too. I guess I do get it.
Was this the end? Was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a lot of suspicion simply because of the optics of the situation.
Okay, let's add a different stray light patch here. So I'm going to add this one here called Impact, which I've already added. I'm going to change that. We're going to bring in some new stuff here. Where is it? It is down here. Impact is a contact instrument, which is, it's a good starting point for just an easy, quick solution basically. Contact has got so many different sounds that I'm not even really close to their full collection of sounds. So let's get down to, I'm tempted to go with modular icons, which is a library of wonder if you can change the speed of this. Let's get over to the sequencer section. And we'll look over the sequencer section. We'll see there'll be some kind of like rate. I don't actually want an organ, I want something like interesting. This is quite cool. I don't use this. I don't think I use this enough. This could be a good layer as a layer for this synth. Maybe we should double up on those. Let's get this synth and add modular icons grind core to this synth. I wonder if we can do that. Can I just grab it and drag it? No. Okay, I'm going to add modular icons manually. Or just do this properly actually and do it, get it all across the project, make it sound good, and then come back for the listen. So,
was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. A lot of suspicion.
We need more of it, like a we need more that type of thing. Okay, let's remove all the kick sounds and let's just redo this, sort of find a nice sounding patch which has got some this type of thing. Do it an octave lower. That's it. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And that's all you need. Okay, here we go.
Was this the end?
1, 2, 3.
Was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a lot of suspicion simply because of the optics of the situation. For a journalist to have publicly accused a prominent media mogul of corruption to then be killed, it was just too neat. But clearly, Belinga was arrested, and others were arrested, and there have been leaks. Some of the leaks were obviously intended to derail the investigation and to ensure that people might get the wrong...
Yep. We'll take this last one and undo it. So now we're just going to fine-tune this a little bit.
Was this the end?
So we'll do that over there, and then just... Now I don't want it to get too high, so I'm going to change the sound to, let's see, well, I'll show you what I'm doing here. Don't actually need the browser, do we? No. Lose your browser, lose your browser. You are free to lose your browser. This is where you start to go a bit nuts. Okay. We are looking for the filter. Where is it? Mod envelope filter. There's sometimes something on the home page to turn off sound. Look for cutoff. There we go. Yeah. Low down. Okay, the cutoff is being affected by an LFO, which will be under sound. And this LFO rate, amount, modulation, LFO 1, filter, cutoff, take that down. Daft, no, I don't want that. Daft LP. Okay, now I want an AB filter, which is also, just unlink that. Come on, kids, let's see. Okay, so how do I unlink that? Macros, that's it. Cutoff not assigned. Take this. There you go, cool. Layer A cutoff. What I want to do is max down. There we go. Layer B cutoff, max down. we got this weird issue with panning. I don't want the panning to... Layer A and B pan must be center. That's fine.
This talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a... Was this the end? Popular journalist talks out against big media mogul. He is then abducted and killed. Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a lot of suspicion simply because... Was this the end?
Okay, I've got a crash in there. I really want this woman to not talk. Let's solo out the music track. Just want to get this fine-tuned. There you go. So now we've got a little low growly synth which is coming up and down. The filter cutoff is coming up and down. There you go. Cool, let's go.
For a journalist to have publicly accused a prominent media mogul of corruption...
Then we can do a little bit of one of these suspense woodblock things over here, just after the key change, so right here.
Mogul is arrested. The end. There was a...
That's it. I've soloed out the music, but there's actually a lot of reverb over that too.
There was a lot of suspicion simply because of the optics of the situation. For a journalist to have publicly accused a prominent media mogul of corruption...
It's really, it's not difficult stuff. It's...
But clearly, the linger was...
True crime podcast music is... it's very much about just a low drone.
Some of the leaks were obviously intended to derail the investigation and to ensure that people might get the wrong end of the stick.
I'm lengthening that out a bit because it needs to overlap with the incoming clip.
Arrested.
Here we go.
And there have been leaks. Some of the leaks were obviously intended to derail the investigation and to ensure that people might get the wrong end of the stick.
And I've already faded it out, so there you go, and in comes the parade music. Good, so that is, we're still on episode 1. I've got a ways to go, but it's fine. I'm just laying down the groundwork for all the bed modifications. So I've done all the creative stuff now, basically, and we're going to move on now to the last clip of episode 1.
Justice.
And what I'm going to do for this is the same as what I did for the one before, just get 2 more synth layers. So if you're wondering what's going on, I've finished the editing of the series. It's a 5-episode true crime series. The client just wants a bit more beefy music. So I'm spending a couple hours this week doing what I love doing, which is writing original music. Unfortunately, this is not something that takes a lot of thought because true crime music is generally very minimalistic and sparse. So here we go.
Press freedom organizations, local debates, calls for justice, the upswell of resistance against a prevailing kleptocracy. The people of Cameroon appear to have had enough. We'll be back in episode 2 to tell the story of Zogo's assassination.
Let's do, listen.
The ups.
Appear to have had enough.
We'll be back in episode appear to have had enough.
It worked quite well. It was an accident, but let's do, every time I see a woodblock.
To have had enough.
Good, there we go. Accidental success. So now I've got a nice little additional tool for tension. There you go, nice and fat. Okay,
we'll
great.
Be back in episode 2 to tell the story of Zogo's assassination.
Okay, and I'm going to then call it there.
We'll be back.
Oops.
Be back in episode 2. We'll be back in episode 2 to tell the story of Zogo's assassination and to dive into the context. organizations, local...
Let's get those over there.
And calls for justice. Justice.
Press freedom organization.
Okay, cool.
Local debates, calls for justice. The upswell of resistance against a prevailing kleptocracy. The people of Cameroon appear to have had enough. The people of Cameroon appear to have had enough.
Just after that.
Cameroon appear to have had enough. To have had enough. We'll be back in episode 2 to tell had enough. We'll be back in episode 2 to tell the story of Zogo's assassination and to dive into the contents of the dossier which reported illicit activities and may have served as a motive for his murder. We'll look at how which reported illicit activities and may have served as a motive for his murder. We'll look at how an external contingent of journalists picked up the case, the motive for his murder. We'll look the motive for his murder. We'll look at how an external contingent of journalists picked up the case after Zogo's death and how necessary it was for their safety that they were not from Cameroon. I'm Angela Quintal. You've been listening to Closer. Illicit activities and may have served as a motive for his murder. We'll look at how an external contingent of journalists picked up the case after Zogo's death and how necessary it was for their safety that they were not from Cameroon. I'm Angela Quintal. You've been listening to Closer. It was for their safety that they were not from Cameroon. I'm Angela Quintal. You've been listening to Closer.
Cool dudes. There's the end. Okay, so that sort of works. Let's listen again.
Press freedom organizations, local debates, calls for justice. The upswell of resistance against a prevailing kleptocracy. The people of Cameroon appear to have had enough. We'll be back in episode 2 to tell the story of Zogo's assassination and to dive into the contents of the dossier which reported illicit activities and may have served as a motive for his murder.
Cool dudes. Well, that's it. I'm going to keep on cracking on with this, but kill the stream because that's enough. Thanks for stopping by, and yeah, catch you in the next one. Adios.